So Karen was writing, she posted a picture of an Arab mare trained to go to a mark to work on a film set, and she stayed on it until told to move. Yeah, the Budweiser horses that they are mark trained. And I think marks and even X's on the floor, that's been used in animals and films, I think, since the beginning. It just, it's cool. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it gives something to do, somewhere to be, and when we know where we want to be and what we want to do, it's pretty easy to feel comfortable and chill. So fantastic on that photo. And Sandra's writing, I'd love to hear about the loose leash method. You mentioned our emails. Yeah, so this is the classic when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, that I never would have thought last November, when I thought something wrong with Dakota. Is he okay? And I stopped doing agility, and I, just started doing leash walks and stuff that eventually led to TPO on both legs. But I never thought that it would lead to the number of insights and a shift in my relationship with Dakota that has been like beneficial, that's been a positive. And so some of the things I learned about loose leash walking with a high drive dog, a dog that isn't bred to walk like the side of their person for miles on end. I mean, I see it more like a border collie is going to be more likely to walk like slightly behind you and hurt your feet, or be willing to walk next to you off leash, for a period of time that is part of getting ready to do work. But this loose leash thing, there's a lot of components to it that are not really easy for the sports dog to do. And part of it is we build drive in our dogs. We pick drivey breeds. We pick kind of fast moving dogs. And I'm just going to go off topic for a slight second. That's not really off topic, but years ago I was at a dog camp and in a freestyle workshop where Jake and Lil, they had just it was day 4, and we'd all kind of had it with too many treats, too many tricks. And so the instructor, she said, "Oh, here, borrow my lab, and so you can work with them." And I'm working this dog, going, "Oh my God, everything's happening so slowly. It's so easy." And she goes, "I know. I want you to experience that." So the terriers and the border collie that I have, they're bing, bang, boom. Everything is like that. So think about that natural mentality. You're trying to get that dog to walk calmly at your side for hours on end or for miles on end. That's really something that you would need to train. And because I had this long opportunity and the inflicted upon me, that start at 5 minutes and go to 10 minutes after, a week, and then, 2 weeks later add another 5 minutes, and 2 weeks after that 5 minutes, I was forced to start at the beginning twice, and again starting over, that I realized that really what Dakota needed to learn was to work at a very low state of arousal. And it's not a natural border collie state, and it's different than suppression. So I could have suppressed him and gotten him to walk slowly. But this is different. And how I did it, and it will be the same for anybody who's got a fast moving, higher drive dog that you would like to go for walks, is that you're going to be training a mindset that's different than anything you've ever worked with before, and that anything your dog has ever experienced working with. And so it is very much in keeping with the ocean, like the training from the inside out. But it's been an incredible experience. So here are some of the tips I have. Definitely go through that healing class that you have for free in the Ocean Bundle, because what that does is it's going to build a lot of value for heel position, and it's going to get your mechanics so tuned up that you're not going to have to think about it, so that your hand is always going to deliver the food at your side. You're not even going to be looking down at your dog's mouth, which will then keep you from delivering the food to your dog's mouth versus your dog coming to that heel position to your hand. And that is really critical in terms of rewarding the dog for thinking about heel position versus thinking about, going forward as your hand moves forward with the treat, or lagging, like the dog is, seeing the treat while they're lagging. So really, what's a dog thinking about when he's seeing the reward, which is the anticipatory chemical bath that is really rewarding to the dog. So that's going to keep the dog motivated to stay in heel position. You're going to be building a lot of value. And incidentally, one other thing about these smaller dogs, that they tend to lag a little bit to stay to keep from going under your feet. So with these dogs, once you've got heel position and you've got your mechanics down for, the bunny dip going straight up and down with your hand, that if you can keep moving while your hand goes from my food to your food and goes down, and you keep moving, that's going to get your dog accelerating from that lagging position so that they're getting the actual food while they're accelerating. And that's going to help with that slight lagging that I noticed that Jordy was doing, just a smidgy of typical small dog thing, that to stay out of heel position for, I don't know exactly why they do it. Could be many reasons, but I do know that even accelerating but keeping your hands straight down is going to help them really drive into heel position. So back to the loose leash. So that is going to build a ton of value for your dog going to heel position. They're going to know how to get in heel position. And so then you move on, once you've got the value, to the one thing the dog needs to know to walk nicely on a loose leash is they need to know that the cue to release pressure is the slightest amount of pressure. So I show this in the video. I'm leaving those bonus videos in the Ocean healing class. They've been pulled out of the clean run class because you can't really see it, and you're going to hear this and you're going to think, well, it's complicated, and it kind of is. That you need to get your pinky finger on the leash on your dog inside your house, and you need to be able to move your dog there just ever so slightly with the ever so slight pressure on that leash. That's what the dog needs to learn, and that's something that Dakota never learned because I never really broke it down into that tiny slice. So once you've kind of worked that out a little bit, where you can feel it in your hand, what's going to help you understand what subtle releasing of pressure is clamp your hand or your arm to your side so that you've got like a steady, like a pole-like hold on the leash, so that you can feel when the dog releases the slightest pressure. So it's not that the dog's going to be taking a step or even moving, but you are going to feel the slight release of pressure, and that's what you're going to mark and reward at the beginning. It's that teeny tiny subtle slicing. That's the thing that everything else builds on for this loose leash walking for the sports dog, not for the pet dog that most of what they're asked to do is in that low key mode. So I talk about it in a video, but if you have any more questions about it, definitely ask in the Ocean group, and I will get into it with more detail. But it's impossible to see on a video because you can't even see it in real life. That you can feel it though with your fingers. So you can take two fingers like this, but keep your hand gripped. Keep your arm gripped to your side so that you can feel the ever so slight release of that pressure. And you will see your dog's light bulb go off really fast. It took Dakota, I don't know, probably 30 seconds to 40 seconds. And, when I was first pulling, he was looking at me like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He was going, I don't understand this. And so that ever so slight release of the pressure, again, you couldn't see it. You could feel it. Good boy, and give him the treat. A few of those, he went, oh, I know what you want. And now at the start of every walk, I put the leash on him while he's in his X-Pen. And before he releases out of the X-Pen, I do one little reminder of a release of pressure right there. And if he's not responsive to it, then I work a little bit more in the house. And I do it again at the door. And I do it again at the bottom of the ramp. And I do it again at the gate. So these are all reminders of this one little thing he needs to keep in mind. And so now, once we're walking, I also shared that I put the leash for him behind my legs, and I've got my leash hand, so my offside dog hand, against my hip, and that leash is banging against the back of my calves. So not only is the leash banging against the back of my calves, but it's also kind of gently banging against his shoulder because the leash is loose. So this is kind of a reminder to both of us, but here's what's kind of cool about it, is if something is the same, your brain tunes it out and you stop becoming aware of this slight clunk, clunk, clunk of the leash against the back of your leg. And the same is true for him on the shoulder. But what happens when the pressure changes ever so slightly, then your brain wakes up to, oh, that's new information, and you are aware again of the change in that, and so is the dog. So you've now got the shift in the dog's arousal state, or what they're thinking about, or where they're thinking about going. You've got the first thought even before anything visible is happening, and before the dog has actually moved out of whatever position they're in, because at this point it's not about heel position anymore. Although when that leash pressure thing hits and you say that the dog releases from it, and you say good dog, and you reward, you put your hand in the my food position, then bring it down and let the dog find it. Eventually that slight leash pressure in the release of it becomes a cue for the dog, without you saying anything, to come back and get the treat. So it's like, see how it's all feeding back into the heel position thing. It's a phenomenal approach because it's so simple for the human to do the thing the human needs to do, which is to recognize the beginning changes of the dog's arousal state, which comes before the dog starts pulling on the leash, so that you can either, mark when the dog releases, like, good boy, and then you put your hand, my food position, then dog comes back, your food position, and you rewarded it. Or if you see that, oh, you know what, he's not releasing pressure, now he's starting to amp up, think forward, like going somewhere else, because you've done so much heel work, you can give a little, and this is this is the word I use, I go up, 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 up. It's very up, quiet. It's not like, It's just a little like, hey, buddy, I'm noticing this, and that alone will kind of shift him back. So another thing I realized is, if you go the same route always, not only are you going to know where, like, the squirrel trees are, and where this is where the dogs tend to pee, so this is where they're going to want to pee, so you can release your dog to go do their own thing before they release themselves to do it. But it also starts, the dog starts patterning this behavior on this route. So this brings up another point about what is the purpose of these walks. Like, what are they for you? What is your plan? What is your goal? For me, what my goal used to be with walking my dogs was, I'm getting exercise, they're getting exercise, and yeah, there'd be some, sniffing and, pee, poop, all that stuff that would happen, but, we are getting exercise. But what's happened as a result of Dakota needing to walk slowly is the goal changed, and as a result of the goal changing, the energy has changed, and I realized that there's no way he could do loose leash walking the way I was walking before, because his arousal state was too high. And so for Lil, she can do it. She can barely pull on the leash because she is trotting quickly when I'm walking, because she's a small dog. So that's when I realized, oh, there's some incompatibility issues with, what my goal was. We were all exercising, and if I had the goal of loose leash walking, which I didn't, because I thought it was, impossible to get, given that he was 6 and he never seemed to have any sensitivity to the leash. So the thing I think I would want you to ask yourself, if you want to take your dog, your sports dog, for a walk out your front door, to reevaluate that goal and not let it be, like exercise if you've got a bigger dog that, it can't walk fast enough at your pace to, enjoy that. So to really think about, like, what goal would be more reasonable for you to have, and do you want to have that goal? So, do you want to teach your dog to walk on a loose leash And are you willing to walk slowly to teach your dog that? Are you willing to go the same route? If not, then this whole method isn't probably not going to work because of the too high arousal of the dog, that they're not going to want to do this. So the only way you're going to get them to do it is through suppression. And suppression is kind of suppresses everything. So now you've got the joy suppressed. You've got, alertness, everything we want in our dogs, that gets suppressed along with the arousal. So it's a kind of an impossible situation, which for me makes sense as to why all these loose leash methods that I've tried, and I looked again online recently to think, well, if somebody come up with something else, and they haven't, because it's an arousal issue. It's with sports dogs. So and some of them are so undoable for the person. Like I was watching one where, you first get your dog used to being collar and leash in the house, being calm, all that I could get. And then you spend all this time like going to the front door and touching the doorknob and all that. Yeah, I guess you could do that. And then, you go out and then you come back in. And then it starts getting to the point where you're like, well, who's really going to do that? And at some point that dog is going to wake up anyway, right? These were border collies. So I don't think it is doable unless you're going to teach your dog another way of connecting with you, which is like in that same kind of mindset of when you're giving your dog a massage. That's kind of where they need to be able to do this thing. So another reason why I'm not going to be teaching this method outside of the ocean community is I think it's the rare person who's going to be willing to do this, unless of course they have an orthopedic surgery and then they go, well, I'm going to do this because what else am I going to do on these walks? It's going to make it more interesting. So but for anybody who thinks they might want to do this and they want to go through the healing thing and build that value first, other things I think are really important is to only walk one dog at a time. I've been walking the dogs separately for the most part the last couple weeks, and Dakota is 100% better when Lil isn't, doing her thing. So he kind of gets motivated by her movement, and it doesn't give me an opportunity to stay really tuned in with him. And they keep switching sides because Lil will switch sides. So one dog at a time to really, until both dogs are so proficient at loose leash walking, if that ever would happen. So again, it's like not your typical, like I want to take my dogs for a walk thing. What else? Let's see. Same route is super important. Today I went on a new route and Dakota was less successful because as soon as we went straight instead of turning right to go around the loop we've been doing, it instantly changed. I'm like, okay, there's something to be said for the same route. And I knew it, but I didn't realize how advanced of a thing that was to stay on the same route. So definitely we do a 1.2 walk, and that's the route that he can maintain really nice leash skills. And I'm not talking perfection. Like if squirrels and birds and stuff show up, there's alertness and arousal goes up. But the thing that's different is instead of him going like yanking on the leash, what he'll give me as moderate pressure now, I would have been thrilled with a year ago. I would have gone, oh my gosh, this dog is barely pulling. So that's how light his touch has gotten, where what's a hard pull for him is now very moderate. And I just need to keep reminding myself to not expect perfection, just to expect responsiveness. And when he does get to that state of moderate pressure, I will just stop, and that leash is now behind my knees. So he's getting a straight pull back, which is really key versus pulling up. Because if you pull up, the dog has no way of releasing the pressure, unless they're going to jump up, and they will go up on their, on their hind legs. But so the leash has got to go back. With small dogs, that is a challenge, right? That leash can still be behind your legs, but it's going to have to be down at your calves, or you're going to bend your knees so that your knee joint is low enough where you are pulling back for the dog to be able to release the pressure. So this is a complex thing, but the great thing about it is once you've built that value for heel position And once you've decided, yeah, this would be a fun thing to train, I'd like to just, be able to walk my dog out the front door and do this one route that would be enjoyable for us. And, I can think of it like a walking meditation versus an exercise walk. And actually, that is a way I've come to think of this, that it is very mindful to walk with your dog like that, to be very tuned in with your dog and to not have this, I'm here to exercise, to just to be. And you notice the leaves blowing, you notice a lot more. So there are many benefits to it beyond the leash skills. I think now that I thought more about it, it is like a walking meditation. So for you daily meditators, it's another opportunity to get the meditation out of the way without having to sit. Anyway, let's see. Did I mention everything? I think I did. And that slight leash pressure thing that I was just mentioning, like before the walk, like a few times, just to make sure your dog is fresh in that understanding. That at any time Dakota starts getting more aroused, and I stop, and then he releases. I tell him good boy, comes in heel position and stuff. That then if he's still kind of at a moderate level of arousal that won't allow him to walk at the pace that he can maintain a relaxed state of mind about being out in the world, I'll do a little bit of refreshers with just gentle fingertips on the leash, and to make sure that he's responding to the feather touch, because that's the thing. That is the only thing the dog needs to understand to do loose leash walking. So, and for the person, I think the thing you need to understand is the arousal state of your dog, that it's matching the action that you're asking your dog to do, which I'll just say one more time. In my opinion, it's the only way to do this with a sports dog, a high drive dog, without suppressing the dog, that you're training the dog to work in a lower state of arousal than what you normally would. Okay, so that was a mouthful.